well, thank you very much, Stanford Mmoyiseli. Am I saying it correctly?
Yes, you do.
From the Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs,
Yes.
for being with us today. And perhaps, Stanford, if you could introduce yourself and tell us what is the work that you're doing with the department.
As you have said, my name is Stanford Mmoyiseli. I'm working for the Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs. Actually, the department has two sections within the department. The Department of Cooperative Governance has something to do with the municipalities. And the Traditional Affairs is another section that has something to do with the traditional leadership. So you'll find that we are working parallel to each other, but there is a head of the Department of Cooperative Governance, and a head of the section Traditional Affairs. I'm working for Traditional Affairs as the support staff of the Traditional Council. Here we are at Jumba Traditional Council. Jumba Traditional Council is composed of 4 administrative areas: Upper Tabase, Tabase Mission, Mbolombo, and Tabase number 4. Inkosi Nokaka is the head of the Traditional Council. I am the support staff. I do all the administrative work for the Traditional Council. I'm called the secretary, and I support Inkosi Nokaka in all the duties that she does.
Okay, so you work very closely with the traditional leader here in the community. And what would you say from your experience, what are the roles and responsibilities of the traditional leader?
Traditionally, she or they, because you will find that Inkosi Nokaka is the head of the traditional councils. There are Inkosana Jolvalombande, Inkosana Dalbunga Jumba, Inkosana Zanokhanyo Jumba, and Inkosana Bungalwile Mdalu. They are all people that are looking at the traditional values of the area. When someone is having a conflict with another person concerning traditional issues, usually she or they stand as the mediator in between those people. They explain the way the tradition is working, so that people will understand what exactly they are supposed to do and not to do. And whenever there is something that is a conflict in between them, Inkosi will have to correct it. At the same time, the government is giving them a role like the Department of Home Affairs. If there is a person who does not have the birth certificate, and you find that maybe, let us make an example of a person who is 15 years old and doesn't have the birth certificate. What happens is that the department would want some reasons as to why this person was not issued a birth certificate at birth. And Inkosi will have to be the witness, or let me just say, he will make an affidavit that tells why that person is that. So it means, as Inkosi, that person should have the archives of all the people in the area, and you should know he's working with the Inkosana, he's working with the sub-headmans, the people that tells Inkosi of all the details that Inkosi would want to do.
Okay, so it sounds like they have responsibilities traditionally, and then they have responsibilities moving between the government and the community.
Quite correct. And the issue of land, they are the custodians of the land. They are the people who should be contacted whenever there is something that has to be done with the land. If you, Prof, you come here in our place and say, I need a site here, I want to build a hotel, they are the people that you need to approach. And after you have approached them, the institution known as traditional council will have to sit down and look at your application. But the person who's going to have a final say on that is Inkosi Nokaga as the head of the institution. The issue of land, any person, even if it's a local person who's looking for a residential site, has to approach the subheadman. The subheadman will take it to the community. The community, after agreeing with that person, that thing will be taken to Inkosana, and Inkosana will check and will make some check and balances on the on that issue, and thereafter it will be sent to the traditional council. The issue of land is quite something, is quite important to the traditional leaders and the people of the area, because if we see someone putting up a structure, it's not like in the urban areas where someone will have to put a shack in a place that doesn't belong to that person. Whenever we see a shack coming up, we jump up and go and ask a traditional leader whether he or she was informed of that decision to put that shack there. So the issue of land is one of the things that the traditional leaders are looking after.
So you know every structure and you know who is in the community?
Of course. The example on that is when in the government all the officials were asked to go to the municipality, those that are staying in the urban areas, and ask for a title deed for their land, so that the government was to give them a certain remuneration for working, living at their homes. And as for us, the people who are living in rural areas, we were sent to the traditional leaders to confirm that we do have sites, the residential sites here, they belong to us, all such things that relates to the land issue.
And would you say that the role of the traditional leader has changed over time?
It has. It has. During the time when we had tribal authorities, the duty of a traditional leader was to look at all the cases that came to them. They were a court that was looking for, they were like magistrates. So after 2010, the tribal authorities were transformed into traditional councils. And if there is a criminal case, someone stabs another person, we don't sit on such a case. We call the police, it goes straight to the magistrate in town. But if someone has a conflict with another person due to a cow, that one says this cow is mine, and the other one said no, it's not yours, it's mine. We sit on such things. And also on traditional issues, it might take us a day if I can explain some of traditional issues that maybe relate to the way we are living. So we go to them. A young girl has been married to a young boy here, and after some time they had some quarrels. They come to us after those quarrels when they say we need a divorce, and we as traditional leaders, I'm saying we because I'm assisting, the traditional leaders will tell them that according to our culture and tradition, we don't have a divorce. You are married, you are married. So you are not allowed to separate. But there are some procedures that you need to follow it if the matters are forcing you to go on a separation. So those are the things that are being explained to the people, to the community by the traditional leader.
Okay, that makes sense. And what would you say is the main challenges at the moment that traditional leaders face?
Firstly, one would say the challenge is we have what we call the royal families. The family of a traditional leader. Okay. The family of a traditional leader is known as a royal family. For you to understand this, let me explain our situation. Inkosi Jumba was born at Engcobo, at Kumango, in Engcobo, and he gave birth to two sons, Inkosi Mgodlwa and Inkosi Mdugiswa. It's Inkosi Mdugiswa who came here. And when we talk about the royal family, we talk about the children and the descendants of Inkosi Mdugiswa. So those are the people that, all the people that were born in that family of Inkosi Mdugiswa are traditional leaders. But there is only one seat of a chief. They have to sit down and choose amongst themselves who is culturally or traditionally supposed to occupy that seat. Amongst the people that were here, Inkosi Nokhaga was chosen by the royal family to be the one occupying the seat of being the chief or Inkosi. Now, the challenges in many of them is that issue of the royal family, because you'll find a collection of the people who are not the descendants of Inkosi Mdugiswa, but they claim to be the members of the royal family, and they come with their interests. Some of the people do not want Inkosi Nokhaga here. They say, according to them, she is not the person who was supposed to be occupying the seat that she is occupying. And there are another people that are claimed to be the royal family who are saying, no, she is the rightful occupant of the seat that she is sitting on. It becomes a problem. Sometimes you'll find that there is somebody that we all know that is supposed to take over. If a traditional leader has died, that person has to take over that seat of that traditional leader. But some people will say, no, this person is illegitimate. That person cannot occupy such a seat. So those are the challenges that they are facing. Other challenges is that of the municipality. There are some roles that are being played by traditional leaders, but the municipality is having the municipal ward councillor who is doing the job that is he or she is not supposed to do. At the same time, there are duties of the ward councillor that the people are sending to Inkosi and say, please intervene and help us on this. And Prof, there are two words here that we need to look at: the intervention and interception, or interference. Intervention and interference. It happens sometimes that the municipal ward councillor would interfere in the work of Inkosi. And sometimes people will push Inkosi to interfere in the work of that. But the intervention is when the person is not performing to the expectations, the duty that that person is supposed to perform. And what happens now is that people will come and say, Chief, please intervene. Not interfere, but intervene. So even to the case of the ward councillor, though is not something that is regularly being done, the issue of saying to the ward councillor, go and intervene, he doesn't have that authority to intervene to the work of the traditional councillor. And one of the things, a traditional councillor is not stupid. A traditional councillor is not clever. It is the duty of the council that is working with the traditional councillor to make it a point that all the activities that are being performed by the traditional councillor makes that traditional councillor to be clever or stupid. So Inkosi has to be very, very much careful about his council, whether they agree with whatever she or he is saying, or they are the people who are there to advise him. They are the support pillar of the traditional councillor. And it becomes a challenge if, unfortunately, Inkosi has been given a council that does not think, a council that does not have enough wisdom to know what has to be done and what has not to be done.
So how is the council selected, the traditional council?
It has two ways of being made that selection. Like, for instance, when you look at Inkosana, their council, usually they select the council themselves. But there are people that we call the sub-headmen. They are selected by the people and sent to Inkosana to assist Inkosana to perform his job. As for the traditional council, the institution that works with Inkosi Nokaga, there are those four Inkosana. They are the members of the traditional council, and there are other four people that are being selected by the community and sent there. So you'll get 9 people who are the members of the traditional council, and they are all supporting Inkosi Nokaga.
And can I ask, are they normally more men or more women?
The government these days is obliging the people to look at the gender issue, such that if people have selected almost 4 people who are all males, the government will say no, put females there. So we are forced by the law to look at the gender issue.
Okay, so it's forced by the law, but so slowly things are changing. More women are coming into these positions.
I was when we visited Apatabasa Mnyane, I was astonished when the sub-headman told me that go down there at Mnyane, you'll get the sub-headman there. She's a woman. And I said, it's for the first time to hear a sub-headman being a woman. So it's a sub-head woman, not a sub-headman. So things are changing because no one is forcing them to do that.
That was elected by the people?
Yes, by the people.
Okay, and what do you think, what do the traditional leaders most need? What would help them to fulfill their function the most?
To work with the people, listen to the people is of utmost importance. If she or he is forcefully doing things or forcing people to swallow whatever he put on their mouths, it's going to be a problem. For them to work fluently and amicably with the people, he has to listen to them. And as I've said, he or she cannot be clever than the people. But the people, when they are coming up with it, they throw the ideas, put the ideas in a pool, and then out of that pool, he'll come up with the decisions that the people are swallowing.
And from the government side, what is it that the government could do to support traditional leaders?
Why am I being employed at Jumba Traditional Council is for that duty. That, as I've said, Inkosi is not being Inkosi for an educational merit. He is there, he is born to be Inkosi. Like you might find that sometimes he hasn't gone that much to school, and he cannot interpret the policies that are put there. It's my duty to ensure that I interpret the policies for Inkosi and the community. It is now the prerogative of the government to ensure that they capacitate me such that I'll be able to narrate to the whole community and Inkosi about the government policies that are being there. Those are the policies that are driving the way we are doing things at the rural areas where you'll find inkosi, because in urban areas there are no chiefs there.
So does every traditional leader have a secretary like yourself?
Yes.
Do you know how many there are in the Eastern Cape? How many traditional leaders?
Not in the Eastern Cape. We are having a region here known as Dalindyebo region. It's composed of Engcobo, Mthatha and Mkanduli. There are 36 traditional councils. I know most of them, not all of them.
And can you just tell us a bit, Stanford, what are the challenges in these communities, in these councils, across the 36 or even here in Jumba? What are some of the challenges that you are facing as a community?
Oh, a lot of them. A lot of them. But this issue of the municipality that is not working coherently with the traditional leaders is way above all other challenges that we are facing. Many of the things, even in political scenario, you will find that people are looking for or are asking to be serviced in a certain way. And now when you find that the municipality is failing to do that, it comes back and comes to our court as traditional leaders, though we are not municipal people. And people do not have their roads. I'm struggling to get out of my place. And I know that whoever has gone to my place will know that should it rain, you will stop there. You won't be able to go out there. It is the duty of the municipality to do that. But when people are frustrated, they come to Inkosi Nokag and say, why don't you intervene and help us on this? The issue of food, people in our areas need to get food, and in order to do that, the government or the municipality has to assist us to farm our lands, because we have huge lands here that we can farm and produce food, but we cannot because we don't have enough or sufficient resources to do that.
So that's something that if there was the skills and the resources, you think farming would be a good way to increase the employment here in this area?
I once attended a certain workshop at Tsolo Agricultural School there. An official from the Department of Agrarian Reform said in 1920, half of the food that was used in South Africa, in the whole of South Africa, half of that food was coming from the Transkei. We were able to produce food to the utmost benefit of everybody. But now we cannot, because of the climate change, we cannot because of the resources that we do not have, and people have changed their way of living. In 1980, I was young by then. In 1980, I knew that if you go to these homesteads, you'll find that it's the same menu. You won't find the people eating this and that homestead eating another thing. It's almost the same. If it's during this season, you'll find people eating the mealies from our fields, the pumpkins, and all such things. We were producing food for our consumption. But now the people in our days, they are going to town to buy your pastas, macaroni, and all other things that we do not do, all other things that we cannot produce by ourselves. We depend on buying. And during that time, we were producing for consumption. So what I'm saying here is that if we were given enough resources, we can produce the food for ourselves. This issue, I don't know whether it's a political word that speaks about food security. I don't know what food security is, but I think the food security would mean that we could be in a position to produce food for ourselves.
That makes sense. And to sell even beyond, like you were saying, you used to produce food for the rest of the country.
Yes, yes.
Is there anything else? I think that's the end of my questions, but is there anything else you would like to say about the traditional leaders and the community?
I'm not a member of the local house or the provincial house. Maybe Nkosi Joy will have to assist you on that. But what I'm saying is the government is not conversant with this issue of traditional leadership. They know very little about the traditional leadership. The people who know about traditional leadership is the traditional leaders themselves. So it is their duty to speak loud to the government about what is supposed to be done for them. Like, for instance, you'll find some papers written on the paper, let me say a policy is being done by the parliament or whoever does those such policies, and it's written in that policy that a traditional leader has to do this and that and that and that. Is something that they are thinking. So the problem that traditional leaders are doing is to sit down and not pronounce the job that they are doing themselves. The grandfather to Nkosi Joy once asked other traditional leaders, what is the duty of the traditional leaders? He asked them. They gave him different answers, and he said, can I tell you what the duty of the traditional leader is? They said, please, yes, please. And he said, a traditional leader is a person who has to feed other people sufficiently. So that was the answer he gave. So it means if you are not able to give the people what we called here a food security, you are somehow failing somewhere. It is the duty of the traditional leader to be a custodian of the land. It is a duty of a traditional leader to look at the traditional issues and values in his or her area. It is a duty of the traditional leader to ensure that people are having sufficient food. Can I go back a bit? There was once something that was done by our people. If I'm having a cow, I'm getting milk from that cow. I'm feeding my children from that cow. My neighbor here is not having any cow. And the boy from the neighbor would come here to assist me when I'm milking. And out of the milk that I'm getting from this cow, part of it will go to his home. That was the way of supporting each other. After some time, when the calf has gone up, if it's a heifer, I will give it to that person and say, ndiyakunqoma. It's a Xhosa word. That means I'm giving this to you, I'm borrowing you. And the first calf that is going to come from that cow is mine. The second is yours. The third is mine. The fourth is yours. It was something that was done in order to boost economically the way they live, the people during those times. Now that the people are not depending on milking the cows and plowing and all those things these days, that thing is not there. The traditional leader is that person who must stand in front of the people and say, remember those days that you were doing ukunqoma, that it is needed even now that we share what we have. It is the duty of the traditional leaders to do that. But the challenge is that they are quiet.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So on the one hand, it's that there's challenges with the municipality, and on the other hand, the traditional leaders aren't speaking out enough. They are too quiet themselves.
The traditional leaders are too quiet, but not the municipal councillors. Those are politicians.
But I mean, they're not. The part of the challenge is that they're not working well together.
No, they are not. They are not.
Okay. Thank you, Stanford. This has been extremely interesting and helpful to our research. Thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you to you as well.
What would you like to say personally, your own personal opinion, in closing? You can talk to her.
I would say my wish, let me make it my wish. My wish is for politics to subside a bit, so that people are given sufficient space to say what they want to say. Like, for instance, we are driving on bad roads. There are plans that we do have, but those plans are not working because of the politicians who want to do things their own way. I will give you an example. These mountains are called Basia Mountains. Umtata River is coming out of those mountains. Mbashe River is coming out of those mountains. There is a source of water that is coming from those mountains. Now, when politicians came and said they are going to supply us with water, they say they are going to take water from Zolo, go all the long road that comes here. And we said, no, guys, no. There is plenty of water here. And it's going to cost us very little than the water that we are taking from Zolo. Unfortunately, they didn't agree with us. They didn't want to listen to what we are saying. And we said, okay, continue, guys. As long as we are going to get water, we'll be comfortable. That water is not there. Even now, if you look up there, you will see the reservoirs. Those reservoirs are empty because they said the construction company that was constructed to do the job ran away. That's a lie. That's a lie. There is no such thing. It's just that the politicians are doing things their political way, and this issue of corruption is becoming a norm to them. So if my wish is that we speak, they speak less, the politicians. And if the government can support us with resources, we can work our land to the extent that everybody could get something. That's it.
Thank you, Stanford.
Okay,
Really appreciate it.
thanks to you again, and for coming to our area. We feel being made some great people.
I hope so.
Yeah.
You are great people.
Yes, thank you.
Really, yeah, sure. I've
Thank you
learned
very much.